Welcome to the VAIR TISS channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the most frequently asked PI questions. With the TISS OPI just around the corner, I am sure you just need to brush up your basics. So in this video, I'm going to cover 4 important questions that most of the aspirants are asked during the TISS online personal interview. So here we go. Number 1, tell me about yourself. Now, whether it's your TISS interview, whether it's some other business school interview, or any other interview in general where you are working, you've applied for a job, they definitely start off the interview on this question. Well, most of the time. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about the do's and don'ts of tell me about yourself. Number 1, what we most often do is that we start from I completed my schooling from so and so. Then I went on to do my graduation from so and so place. Then I went on to work to so and so place, and now I am preparing. So that is the incorrect order. Well, the most important thing should come first, which is why we always start from latest and then go to past. So the best way to start would be I have completed, or currently I am working as, or currently I am studying in so and so college, or you can say most recently, or recently I completed my graduation, or until recently I was working at, in case you are done with your studying or work, or you've resigned from your job to prepare for the entrance test. Then you move on to prior to this, I graduated from so and so college in so and so course. Always start by introducing yourself with your full name. Don't forget to mention your maiden name as well as your last name in order to give complete information. Don't forget to mention your work experience. So you definitely need to mention your work experience. The best way would not be to say 1.1 year. Always say 1 year, 1 month, or 1 year, 10 months, so that it's very clear in the heads of the interviewer. And you also need to mention the role that you were in, some functions if you could talk about, and the name of the company. So definitely mention your organization. Now mention your academic background. A lot of people at the end of an interview do not even end up saying what exactly did they graduate in. So this part is also very important. Relevant achievements and accomplishments is what you can mention here. So you can say that my team stood first in the basketball competition. I was representing the state in so and so sport, or I ended up winning the spell bee quiz in whatever time period, and you just need to mention it. Mention constructive hobbies and extracurricular activities. So by constructive hobbies, I don't mean shopping, I don't mean texting and surfing the internet, I don't mean saying that I like to watch movies and listen to music. Constructive hobbies would be reading, writing, drawing, doodling, anything related to creativity, anything related to sports would be a great idea for hobbies. Family background. Now, many a times there's a question, tell me about yourself, where you start introducing yourself, and when you end, the interviewer asks you to continue. Did I ask you to stop? So at that moment, you should keep this information handy so that you can mention your family background. Now, don't end up mentioning their marks, their institutes. You can just mention that my father currently works as or is a businessman into so and so business. Don't need to say that since the last 50 years or last 25 years. You don't need to make it very elaborate. Make it as crisp and concise as possible. Now here are the don'ts. A lot of people end up mentioning their marks and percentage. I passed out from so and so school with 90% in my class 10 and 95% in my class 12. Well, I know you have achieved a lot, but this is something that they can see in your DAF because you mentioned a lot about your marks in your DAF already. Don't brag about your achievements. So there is a certain way of delivering. Instead of saying that I stood first, you can say I was privileged to stand first in, or I was lucky to stand first in, or I would like to mention about this one time where I achieved, so that it sounds more subtle and you sound more down to earth. Don't talk about hobbies which sound good. In case you're talking about reading just because you want to sound intellectual, well, that's a wrong choice because you might be given cross questions based on the hobbies that you mention. As I always say, you are the director of your interview. Based on what you answer, the next question is coming up. Don't talk about weaknesses. I know a lot of you have been watching a lot of videos online and you end up telling that my strengths are so and my weaknesses are so and so. So don't talk about weaknesses unless you're explicitly asked to. Don't divulge into too much details. Like I said, don't make points about your family, points about your organization very elaborate. Make sure you're using the correct grammar and don't try to over appreciate the institute. It looks more like flattery and not exactly as if you're trying to put across your point. For example, I would be so privileged and so lucky if I get into TISS through this interview. My dream is to get into this, and I don't know what I would be doing without it. I feel directionless without TISS being in my life. This is where you're over appreciating the institute and your vision and mission goes for a toss. Moving on to the next one. What was your biggest failure? Now I'll start with the don'ts in this case. Don't say that, oh, I never failed at anything, or don't say that, oh, yes, this one time my team leader did not let me do so and so, which is why we missed the deadline. Or don't say, this one time my team members did not listen to me, and which is why I could not achieve the given goal, because that would be blaming an external factor and not being responsible for your own shortcomings. So do not mention those. And don't say, oh, I never learned from this failure because it was so big. I was obviously too, I was too engrossed in overcoming the failure and I never learned anything from it. It was just unlucky. Do not mention it in this way. So what can you do? Be honest. Oh yes, this one time I did fail and I do intend on learning it. Have an answer to why do you consider it as a failure. So this one time where I could not, so another thing that you cannot mention here is any academic failure. So do not say that the biggest failure was failing in a NEET exam or failing in the UPSC entrance exam, because then your MA or MBA might sound like a backup plan. Try and mention about skills and experience over an examination or academics. So this one time my friend had asked me to lend him some money. I was being very careless with my money management, and because of which I could not help a friend genuinely in need of money. That's when I thought it was a very big failure on my part to not manage my money or my wealth or my finances in a strategic manner. Then you can mention what you learned from it. This one time that it happened, I learned how to manage my finances, keep a certain amount in hand because that emergency could be for anyone. Today it was for my friend. Tomorrow, God forbid, it could have been for me. So that was my biggest, I consider that to be a very big failure because I believe that if someone is in help, I should be there to help them. If you would relive the last 10 years of your life, what would you do differently? Now, this is an interesting question. Don't say nothing because everyone does have something that you've not achieved in the last few years. Don't complain or regret. Oh, my parents did not let me take up commerce. They forced me into taking up science. And do not show any regret that, oh, I regret taking up science. So I think if looking back at the last 10 years, I would definitely take up commerce. So don't show any kind of complaint or regret. Don't get emotional. I know a lot of us have lost a lot during the last few years. Now, if you talk about some kind of emotional thing, someone you lost or something you lost, it might end up making you emotional. Now, if you're very comfortable talking about it, that's absolutely your discretion. But if you get emotional while talking about it, your interview might start going downhill. There's nothing wrong being emotional in an interview or exposing your vulnerable self, but if you become emotional and you can't handle those surging emotions during the interview, it might take your interview downhill and it may take some time for you to recover from it in the middle of an interview and answer the other remaining questions in a very confident manner. Don't over exaggerate things that, oh, I would have done this, I would have done that. Like, impossible feats should not be discussed here. What you can do here is you can speak with a smile. Okay, yes, looking back at the last 10 years, and then you talk about gratitude for the journey that you have traversed. I'm really grateful for all the opportunities, all the support, all the great people I have met in the last 10 years. You can mention simple things like, so I do think that looking back, I would have taken some more solo trips. Now, solo trips was not only from the angle of roaming around just like that for a few days. Going on solo trips made me realize that it gives me a lot of confidence. It helps me introspect a lot. And when I come back more recharged and I feel more productive and I can contribute more to the everyday life and everyday task. So, talk about learning and enjoying things. Looking back at the last 10 years, I think I should have done it more often. I started doing this just a year ago, and I think that gave me the confidence and it did make me feel somewhere that I should have done this more often. But nevertheless, now since I feel confident and I do realize the advantages of taking a solo trip, I have planned my time and my planner in this way that I can take more solo trips this year. Now, when you are answering these questions, be ready to answer what makes you think you could not do it earlier. Earlier, going on a solo trip would mean that I'm trying to run away from my friends and my family. I don't enjoy their company. This is the idea that my friends and family had sort of about a solo trip, as well as it led me to believing the same. However, over time, I realized this, and they too realize this, and now they all, in fact, motivate me to go for the same. Would you do it now, given a chance? Of course, I would. I just did take a solo trip some years back or some months back, and given a chance, I would really increase the frequency of it because I can see the advantages that I get from the same. Do you regret not doing it? So, I said that in your interview, there is no space for complaints or regret. So, the best way to answer would be, of course not. I don't regret, but given a chance, I would definitely do like to do it more often. Now, this is another very interesting question. Who has inspired you in your life? What happens in this question is a lot of people get excited and they start talking about multiple people. My father, my grandfather, my mother, so on and so forth. So don't talk about multiple people. Don't just appreciate the person. So I really admire Sir Ratan Tata. He is a great speaker, he's a great entrepreneur, he is such a philanthropist. I really admire his ideology. Don't think only from the institute's point of view. Don't think that okay, Ratan Tata is connected with Tata Institute of Social Sciences, so I should only talk about Ratan Tata. No, think about it from your career point of view. Think about someone who has actually inspired you. So here are the do's that you can incorporate in your answer. Can talk about what inspiration means to you. Inspiration for me is something that has moved me to do something that I would never have thought otherwise. Talk about just one person, preferably. Correlate how and why are they your inspiration. So let's say, for example, uh, my inspiration is Sir Ratan Tata. I really appreciate how he started from zilch, how he was so educated and he had all the facilities to stay back in another country and do very well for himself. But he decided to come back to India and invest all that he has and to make the economy grow. He has ever since become such an empathetic person that every other person who wants to get a job in this country wants to be associated with Sir Ratan Tata in some way or the other. This inspires me to do more for my country. This inspires me to do better for my country. So now your inspiration is seen. Your source of inspiration is not being, just appreciated. You are talking about what inspired you and what inspiration means to you. Talk about just one person and have two examples ready. One from your personal life and one famous personality. So you can take anyone, your mother, your father, but don't just appreciate. Just talk about what you would learn from them also, even if it's a famous personality. So I hope that this video helped you understand and appreciate how to answer these 4 questions in your upcoming interviews. If you're looking for structured preparation, proper guidance, proven strategies, a right roadmap to crack the top programs of TISS in just one attempt, then you must definitely join the TISS selection workshop. The link we have shared in description. In case of any doubts, do let me know in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe to the TISS VAIR channel. Thank you. All the best.